issues. Yeah. All right.
It's just easier to look through it.
Yeah.
Will you all please rise and join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to tonight's regularly scheduled meeting of the Rutland City Board of Aldermen for Monday, October 17th, 2016. Before we get to the first portion of our meeting, I'll just note that Alderman Larson is not here today. He could not be here as he had shoulder surgery, and I'm certain everyone joins me in wishing him a speedy recovery. We look forward to seeing him back in City Hall. That said, the first item on our agenda is the minutes of our previous meeting.
And I'll move for the approval of the minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. It's been seconded. Any questions or comments, requests for changes? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, that brings us to outside the rail. Is there anyone who wishes to speak outside the rail on an issue that is not on the agenda? Okay, we'll work our way around the room. Ruth Ellen, if you want to step up to the podium.
This is about pumping the park.
That is on the agenda. Thank you. All right. Does anyone else have any questions on this before we move on? Alderman Larry, you all set?
I'm all set.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your report.
Yep.
Okay, so we have several folks here who are interested in Punk in the Park. The board received a letter. I received a letter, which I shared with the board in their packet, from John Ellis Jr., and I don't want to steal their thunder. I won't read the whole letter. There's, I believe, a few people that want to speak. But essentially, there's a group here who wishes to speak in regards to Punk in the Park remaining a full-day event in Rutland City and not being reduced to a 4-hour event. So those of you who are here who want to speak on the issue, please come to the podium one at a time. Whoever wishes to speak first, I don't know if you've chosen someone. When you are at the podium, just name, town of residence for the record, and the floor will be yours. I just ask that if multiple people are going to speak, try not to repeat what is already said. The board has a lengthy agenda after this, so we appreciate your keeping it pertinent. Otherwise, we've got the floor. You've got the Board of Aldermen here. The Superintendent of Parks and Recs is also here, and we're live on PEG TV. So name and town for the record, and the floor is yours, sir.
First, I'd like to say thank you for hearing my case today. My name is John Ellis Jr., also known as Spanky Payne in the music promoting and Punk in the Park. I actually live in Springfield, Vermont right now, but my hometown is Rutland, and we've been putting shows on here since I was a teenager. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Knott, for telling me the guidance and telling us what we had to do to get up here, and all the supporters that showed up tonight. I would like to start off by telling you a little about myself and Punk in the Park. When I was a teenager in this town, there was nothing going on. Nothing to do, so we ended up drinking and getting into a lot of trouble. Yes, I had my fair share of trouble and problems. Looking back, I would never have thought I was going to be a father of 2 beautiful children and a husband to a wonderful, supportive wife. Today, I'm a big part of the community with my job and helping coach T-ball and doing fundraisers for a good cause. My number one goal is for my kids to be proud of me and not have to have the same problems that we had to fight for. Before Punk in the Park, there was nothing going on that could compare to this. We were playing gyms, teen centers, and basements. None of the bars in the town would give us a chance. There was a lot of underground bands looking to get out and play, part of the reason why most musicians leave this town. Not saying we didn't love playing teen centers and basements. Myself still love playing basement shows and house parties. But when Punk in the Park started, it changed everything. Mike Wiersbicky started Punk in the Park in 2001. We were all happy for it. We were shocked that the park was going to let us dirty punks play in the park. Back then, everything was word of mouth and flyers. There wasn't Facebook or MySpace. When the day of the first Punk in the Park happened, it was mind-blowing. There were so many people there, all ages, listening to us. We realized then that we were doing something that no one else has done before in Rutland, and we had to keep it continuing. We have had our ups and downs with swears over the microphone and is one of the reasons why it ended in 2005, our 5th year. Punk in the Park started back up in 2011. We started right back off with Punk in the Park 6. This was around my son's 2nd birthday. This goes back to where my kids being proud of me. I don't want to see my kids have to fight with the same problems we had to get our music out there and heard. When I went to Sydney, I asked her again if we're all adults and now we all have kids. Can we do this again? With that said, Punk in the Park was on again. Punk in the Park has had troubles building up the crowd, but the last 2 years changed that. Last year, I was dead set on making it more and more kid-friendly. I think parents weren't sure about bringing their kids to a punk show. That was the first year I ended up doing the kids tent, which has been growing every time. When we had it all set up and ready to go, the Parks Department said we wouldn't be covered under their insurance. This was a month before we were already booked and ready to go. And they also said we could only have a 4-hour time window. We said that 4-hour time window would not work for us, since we already had 9 bands lined up to play. So they said okay with that, and it was said and done. We didn't hear about it again until 3 days after the last Punk in the Park. The insurance thing was fixed due to the community and the supporters. They all pitched in to help us get the coverage we needed. Punk in the Park 10 turned out to be great due to all the issues. Which brings us to this year, Punk in the Park 11. This year, I have to say, was our best year yet. We had more parents and kids than any other year. I couldn't help but smile seeing all the kids running around and talking to the bands. We had face painting, coloring, and temporary tattoos. When I was up there playing this year, I was watching at least 10 kids jumping around and dancing to our music. There was no swearing, and everyone looked out for the kids. What makes Punk in the Park any different from any other bands playing at night in the park? Punk in the Park has always been all picked up and packed up by the 10 and 9 bell, which I love that thing. Every out-of-state band, they jump out of their seats when that thing goes. They're like, what the heck was that? And we try to tell them it's like the old curfew thing. They just kind of think it's crazy. Talking about the out-of-state bands, we've had bands and fans come from all over that are eating in our restaurants and staying in the hotels and shopping in our town. We need that. Going to go a little off subject. I hate putting any other show down, but Friday Night Live, so glad they're doing that, and I wish they did it when I was a teenager in this town. But that was said to be a family-friendly event. I took my kids to see the last one with Badfish. Don't get me wrong, I love the show and I love the band, but my son came home that night saying they smoked 2 joints in the morning. Punk in the Park, we don't have that. All the kids were bringing home pictures that they drew for their parents and taking pictures with the band. Now for the reason that we're here. The Parks Department wants to make it a 4-hour show, not a full day show. It has always been. Punk in the Park has always been from like 12:30 to 7:30. There is no way I could fit all we do in a 4-hour time slot. Plus, it wouldn't be worth the time and the money we spend on it. We spend about $1,200 on the event yearly, with insurance, sound, and kids' activities. 4 hours or 7 hours, it will be the same price for me. That much money would not be worth the hassle and time. The Park Department said because of noise and complaints from the neighbors. But when they interviewed the Rutland City Police Department, they couldn't find one complaint in the 11 years that Punk in the Park has been around. So I ask all you please to vote, support Punk in the Park 12. We promise to keep it kid-friendly, promise to be cleaned up like we always do. It's always cleaned up better than when we got there. My whole family helps run this. Please do not take this away from the next generation of teens and kids. It's better than them getting into trouble and doing drugs. Playing music saved my life. Thank you so much for having us, and thanks for listening to me.
Thank you for coming in. All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this issue? Hello.
Hi, I'm Scott Frank, and I live in Rutland Town. John covered most of what I was going to say. So for brevity, I'm going to read a couple of letters from a couple people who couldn't be here today. The first is from Mishak and Katie Tarini from Mountain Man Jewelry and Mountain Music Vinyl. To whom it may concern, I'm writing this letter in support of Punk in the Park. My name is Mishak Tarini. My wife and I are owners of Mountain Man Jewelry, Mountain Music Vinyl, located in the Diamond Run Mall. When we expanded into the music side of our business about 5 years ago, one of the first things we noticed was the huge support of the punk and hardcore community in this town. Over the years, we've gotten to know many of these new friends, and there's no doubt they are overwhelmingly positive members of the community. Not only are they an asset to our local business community, but they offer so much social benefit as well. From my own youth experience to the inclusiveness and positive support I see in the current local leaders of the scene, and as an occasional attendee, I know this is important to kids and adults alike. Punk in the Park creates a safe, drug and alcohol-free, positive, and overall family-friendly place for fans to share in the local music experience. This is a model that we want in a music scene or any event in general. They are doing it right. To sum up my feelings, the scene is a social, cultural, and economic benefit to Rutland. Punk in the Park has complied to everything asked of them for 11 years with no issues. They should be encouraged and supported to make this event as great as they feel it can be. They have our full support. Thank you for our consideration. My next one is from Paul Engelhardt from Maine, and a musician that has played here. To the Board of Aldermen of Rutland, Vermont, I am Paul Engelhardt. I am a father, grandfather, business owner, and musician. I sit and write this to you in full respect to continue with Punk in the Park. As a bassist in a Maine-based punk band, we stand for all that is right and respectful in music. Punk in the Park allows us a chance to perform our art and share our music with people. The event is a fun family time for people to come together and enjoy a common thing, music. From children to the elderly, the coordinators have kept this event family-friendly. The continuation of Punk in the Park is beneficial to all. It creates an environment for kids to meet and talk to musicians. This shows the kids that music helps the world. Music aids in healing from a broken heart to easing depression. Also, these same kids may pick up an instrument and carry on with sharing the joy of music with others. It also becomes beneficial as people come to town and spend money at local businesses. As a business owner, I for one feel family events generate income in the town they are held in. As an example, we just played a 2-day show in Akron, Ohio. 2 hotels sold a combined 29 rooms for 2 days, without the show would have been empty. Lastly, it brings musicians together to share an art form. We get the chance to visit with old friends and meet new ones, sharing our songs and help grow more generations that instead of sitting inside and wasting their minds, they can change someone's life with music. I thank you for your time and look forward to visiting Rutland, Vermont with my family again next year. With much respect, Paul. And one last one. This is from Andrew Smith from the band 30 Silver in Boston. To the Aldermen of Rutland, Vermont, I am a musician and a music fan living in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm writing to express my concern with the restrictions you're seeking to place on Punk in the Park after many years of trouble-free events. Music is a way to draw a community together. Punk rock especially has a history of forming a community for young and old alike, people who do not necessarily gel easily with the mainstream. I think that something that helps to foster community in Rutland ought to be celebrated instead of having more onerous restrictions placed upon it. On a personal level, I will note that without the work of John Ellis and Punk in the Park, I never would have been to Rutland, a town that I find I greatly enjoy, and I'm sure others could tell a similar story. I urge you to do the right thing and let Punk in the Park continue as it has over the past years. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this issue? All right. Name and town of residence for the record, and the floor is yours.
Virginia Mihawk, Rutland, Vermont. I've been doing Punk in the Park with my brother and Scott for years and years, doing cleanup, just making sure everything is fine, young people are safe. This is a good bunch. I watched this kid dance with my grandson and just generally look out for him. This is my granddaughter, and I've been listening to punk for a long time before I was a grandma. And I would like to say a few things. She lives here in Rutland also.
Hi. Thank you, Alderman Moore.
What do you think? I guess she got a little shy. But
That happens.
That's okay.
she's been at Punk in the Park for 2 years now and has genuinely enjoyed it. has found a whole group of other little children to play with, and I took 3 grandchildren there this year. And I just think it'd be a sad thing to cut this on them. They're a good bunch. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm John's other sister. I don't like punk music at all, but I go and support my brother. And if you know my brother, he never finished anything in his life, really, until he had kids, except for this punk in the park. Wasn't gonna say anything today, but I'm really proud of him. He has really put this heart and soul into this thing, and I really would hate to see it end on it. I go, even though I don't understand what they're singing about, and watch the kids, and we all have a good time. Don't have to understand it to enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruth Ellen Weston. I'm a homeowner at 188 Church Street in the city, and I rent business space at 58 Merchants Row. I'm here tonight to ask that you allow this event to continue. While I understand the neighbors' complaints and the difficulty Cindy faces being in the middle, this event is only one day a year. If it is shortened, it can't continue. The $1,000 insurance policy is too high a price to pay for a few hours of music. I remember being so excited about the very first Punk in the Park. Finally, Rutland was doing something different. We went to the third show, I think. I'm not a true punk fan. I love the Ramones and a few Clash songs, but that's dinosaur punk, because I'm kind of a dinosaur. But I really appreciate the spirit, the energy, and the people who follow this music. We are trying to attract and retain young people, but we don't seem to make the effort to create or keep things that are fun for young people. Even if someone doesn't like punk music, they may consider coming to Rutland if they see we have this event. They will think, maybe Rutland really is hip and cool, I should move there. Another tradition that the neighbors didn't like was the 10 of 9 whistle. Babies were being woken up, dental procedures were being interrupted, which seems pretty serious, and yet we ignored all that and allow it to continue every single day, twice a day. Let's find a way to continue this Rutland tradition as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak before we pull it back inside the rail? Okay, seeing none. Alderman DePoy?
I'd like to make a motion to send this to the Rec Committee for further review.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to send the issue to the Rec Committee for further discussion. It's been seconded. Any questions or comments before we vote?
If I may, Mr. President,
Please.
just, and I'm sorry if I'm Johnny come lately on this, just coming back, but as the board and certainly the superintendent knows, we have an ordinance that governs use of the parks and permits therefore for events like these, Section 8008. 3 of the ordinances under which the superintendent applies the criteria that's in the ordinance and issues or denies a permit based on those criteria. And so like if there was a full day event and partial one was granted, the Board of Aldermen under the ordinance has an appellate role. That decision of the superintendent can be appealed to the board, and the ordinance has some liability requirements as well. So we do have kind of the framework, just to remind you of that as you engage in your discussion.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to send this issue to the Rec Committee. It's been seconded. Any additional questions or comments before we vote? Seeing none. Oh, wait. Alderman Donahue?
Could I ask when this is going to be? When, I don't see a date, huh?
It's usually a Saturday, usually first or second weekend of August. This year, we had to push it back to September, first weekend of September.
So it's already been held?
Yes, we just barely had it. We had Rutland Herald did a story. They did a story before the show and a really good story of the day of the show.
This is for next year then?
Yeah, this is for next year.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any additional questions or comments before we vote? Okay, the motion is to send it to the Rec Committee for further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And Mr. Ellis, I have your contact information. I would encourage anyone else who's interested in attending that meeting to get you can give your contact information to me, and I'll make certain when Alderman DePoy, who's the Rec Committee Chair, warns the meeting that anyone who wishes will be notified of what time and what day it's going to be. All right, seeing nothing else, we'll move on, and we will get back to the agenda in the order that we have it here. which brings us to reports and letters from department heads and officials. First up, we have Barbara Spalding, SVCOA 143 Maple Street renovation. It's pages 1 through 3 of our agenda. And we'll take a moment for folks to filter out, and then we'll take that up. So this is pages 1 through 3 of our agenda. Barbara is here if anyone has any questions. Alderman Allaire.